Let's see.
So welcome everyone. And if people join over the next couple minutes, we can just get them oriented as they come in. So before we get started, I want to give you guys a chance to meet our team. So we have a few of us here on the call today, and then lots of us working behind the scenes on everything we do. So Kara is here. Kara's sound wasn't working earlier. I don't know if you want to take a second and introduce yourself, or?
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. My name is Kara. I am one of the Education and Outreach Specialists at the Center for STEM Excellence. And Anne-Marie's going to go over what we've been working on for the last however many months.
Yep. My name is Anne-Marie. I'm also an Education and Outreach Specialist. And then Mary's here. Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Mary Stapleton. I'm the director of the Center for STEM Excellence. And I will mention that we are recording this. So feel free to turn off your camera if you don't want to be seen. Also, we'll send out the link to the recording if you want to share it with any colleagues afterwards. And Anne-Marie will also be sharing the slide deck she's using with you. So you'll all have access to that.
Yeah, so please don't stress out too much about trying to write things down or remember things. We'll send out the slide deck and the recording so you can always check back and see what you missed. We also have Earl, our Chesapeake Bay Conservation Corps intern, have been working with us on all of these different things. Our lab techs, Henry and Debbie, are always working behind the scenes, making our field trips and our videos happen. And Yvonne Eder, our administration assistant. If you've seen our great social media posts on Twitter and Instagram, she is behind all of those. So that's our team. What we're going to be doing today is just some quick introductions, some Pear Deck stuff that you might find familiar if you've been in one of our field trips. We'll do an overview of our distance learning resources, so I'll walk you through how to access and use those different things, and you'll have a chance to ask some questions and give us some suggestions for what we work on next. So the next thing I want to have you do is join our Pear Deck. And I'm going to do this by dropping a link to everyone in the chat. And if you click on that link, it should take you straight to this Pear Deck. Hopefully that works. And so we use this on our field trips, and right now I can look at this part of my screen here and see that 17 of you are connected, 18 now. And you'll be able to interact with our slides through the Pear Deck. So this might be familiar to most of you if you've been using it. If you haven't, hopefully you like it.
If you want to use the thumbs up reaction or any kind of reaction button if you use this, give us like a thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
Like in your little window, so you can go to the reactions. Okay, yeah, or put it in the chat. Just curious.
All right, so at any time, if you're having trouble getting connected or need the link again, let us know in the chat, and Kara or Mary can put that there again for you. For right now, I'm going to keep moving so we don't run out of time. So the first question I have is, what grade level do you teach? And what you're going to do is grab that star. It should be up near the top right of your screen, and just put it in the column that goes with the grade level that you teach. And I know some people are still moving there, so I'm just going to go ahead and show responses so we can sort of see them as they come in. So it actually looks like a pretty even distribution between elementary, middle, and high school. So I'm impressed. Great. So my next question is, how are you feeling about distance learning at this point in the year? So we've had a little more time. We've had a full semester behind us. You can answer this in one word or a phrase. It doesn't have to be super long. But how are you feeling about distance learning?
Well, I don't know what happened, but I lost my Pear Deck slide.
If Kara could put the link in the chat again, maybe, and we can make sure you get
Link in the
reconnected.
chat.
Yeah, I mean, I had it and then I moved the window down, so it kind of disappeared.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah,
Mary beat me to it.
okay.
So it's totally fine if you're still typing, but I'm going to show some of the responses we had earlier. So it's exhausting. I definitely feel that some days. Getting more confident. Pear Deck. We love Pear Deck. So definitely feel that. Gives you a clear perspective on education. I like that. It's definitely a different perspective. Getting the hang of it. Definitely felt like over the last 9 or so months, we've all started to get the hang a little bit more of all these different technologies. No complaints. That's great. Better engaging learners. Yeah, we definitely found that when we first started that we were having a lot of trouble engaging students, and I think we've gotten better at that, but it's definitely a different thing. If students will complete their assignments, yeah, better than the beginning. I definitely agree. Yeah, we've heard this from a lot of teachers that student attendance can be really sporadic. So you don't know if the students you had today necessarily are the same students you had yesterday or will be the same students you have tomorrow. A learning experience. Hopeful, definitely some people saying hopeful. I like to hear that. Mixed emotions, yes. It's tough. So a lot of different responses here, the whole range. Great, thanks for sharing on that one. My last question is about our distance learning resources. So which ones have you used? And you should have 5 different colored dots like down the right side of your screen. You can just drag those 5 to whichever resources you've used. If you've only used a couple, only drag a couple. If you've used more than 5, pick your top 5 favorite. It wouldn't let me have more than 5 dots on there. And there's still a lot of people answering. You can still drag those dots, but I'm just gonna show the responses so you can see what other people are saying. So it's great to see that so many of you have used our virtual lessons and our science short videos or attended field trips. Totally understand those who are saying you've used some of these, but not sure which ones. They're all called like virtual science something. So it gets a little confusing even for us. We don't have any for Science Explorers Club, but we'll get to that. That's really for students, not for teachers as much. So I understand if you haven't attended, we don't expect you to. So this is great. I'm going to go over these resources in just a second. If you've used one of them and you want to jump in and ask a question or share something about your experience, you should definitely feel free. So to give an overview of the distance learning resources that we have, the first thing I want to say is that they're all free. So you do not have to pay for any of these. I had a teacher at a field trip meeting recently ask how much she owed me. Very tempting to say $500, but it's actually all free. You can access all of those resources at our website, towson.edu/CSE. That's the Center for STEM Excellence. And I've linked, if you're looking at your Pear Deck slide, I've actually linked to our distance learning page, so you can scroll through that right now. Just watch out when I move from this slide, that page is going to disappear, but just so you can see sort of how it's laid out. We have a variety of different resources for fully virtual and hybrid classes, and we're available for one-on-one meetings. So if you need more information, you're not sure how to use something, or you want to request something, but you feel like you need to talk to someone about it, please know that you can always send me an email and we can set up a one-on-one meeting with you. Also, please let us know what unmet needs you have. We'll try to help in any way we can. So one of our first resources that we started working on this summer and into the fall was virtual lessons. These are self-contained full lessons within Google Slides. So we send you a link to a Google slide deck, which you make a copy of, and then you can share that with your students. Our original intent was that students would work through the slides at their own pace asynchronously. Some teachers have given us feedback that they are using it during synchronous classes, and that's totally fine too. We're not here to monitor how you use these resources. We just want you to use them in whatever way works best for you. There are some options for differentiation built in, but you can also customize it in any way you want. So I'm going to quickly just walk through how to open up one of those virtual lessons right now. So this is our distance learning page. Here's Kara. And here's our virtual science lesson section. And the one I'm going to open is It's a Gassy World. So I just click on this link here, and it pops up in a new tab where it says copy document, make a copy. We've set it up this way so that when you click that, you make your own copy and it's automatically saved into your Google Drive. And so now at the top, it says copy of It's a Gassy World teacher template with the date that we posted it. And this is your copy. So you can do whatever you want. If there's an activity or a piece of it you don't like that's not going to work for your students, just delete it. That's fine. If there's something you want to add, you can feel free to add anything you want. You can break this up into multiple lessons. However you want to do it is totally fine. So this is your copy. It's not going to affect our master copy. It's not going to affect other teachers' copies. So every virtual lesson starts with a slide with teacher instructions. This is something you're going to want to read through and sort of check off as you go. I'm not going to go through every single thing on there because they're all there for you to read whenever you open one, but just so you know that. As you scroll through the lesson, you'll find a lot of activities like watching videos, and then students will do a short activity like this is a true or false activity afterwards. Or they'll be doing draggables. So here they drag the check marks to the pictures that represent carbon sinks, different things like that. Students will also watch, usually watch someone from our lab actually do the investigation. So in this case, there I am, and I'm doing our It's a Gassy World investigation. And then they'll answer some questions about what happened. At the end of this lesson, we have some slides with these big red boxes on them. These are teacher choice slides where there are options for differentiation. So if you just click on that box and kind of slide it out of the way, you'll see that this is a scientific argument slide. And in this version, students have to write in their own claim, evidence, and reasoning. In the second option, if you slide the box out of the way, the claim, evidence, and reasoning argument is already written there. Students just have to fill in the blanks with keywords. You can choose which option you think is better for your students. If I want my students to do this one where they have to fill it in completely, I would just delete the second slide and then delete that red box. Whoops. So there I am. Delete the red box. Students would never know that other option existed. Again, if there's a piece of it that you don't like, if I don't like this KWL chart, don't think it's valuable to my students, I would just delete it. And I might even add in a new slide and put in my own activity. So again, this is up to you. It's completely customizable. If you need help figuring out how to use one of those or what you want to do with it, you can always schedule a meeting with us. And if you have an idea for a lesson that we haven't created yet, there's a form you can fill in on our website to request that. Does anyone, before I move on, does anyone have any questions about virtual lessons?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to share that a couple of these I have put aside for emergency subplans since they're kind of self-explanatory.
That's an idea. I haven't heard anyone mention that before, so I like that. And we think they're kind of fun to do, especially our elementary ones have less writing and more sort of activities that we think are fun. A lot more draggables and sorting and stuff like that.
Right.
Any other questions? If you think of anything, you can always put it in the chat.
Yeah, the one that you have about the how do scientists know things? I use that as a refresher for my 8th graders on scientific inquiry. So that was really good.
Cool, that's great. The next thing I'll talk about is Scitec virtual field trips. I saw there were also, we had a lot of dots on the field trips, the science shorts, and the virtual lessons. So there might be a few people in here who've already done one. I think I saw a few familiar names when I was scrolling through the list of participants. So how this works is our instructors, that's typically me and Kara, will meet with your class virtually. We prefer using Zoom, but we're fine with using Google Meet if that is what your district uses to complete a scientific investigation. They usually take about 60 minutes. If your class period is 80 minutes, we love that. That's for secondary. For elementary, it tends to be more like 30 to 45. We'll work with whatever time frame you have. So whatever your mod or period length is, we will do that. We can serve multiple sections over 1 to 2 days. So if you have a total of 120 students in 5 sections, we might see 3 sections on one day and 2 the next day or something like that. Our ideal group size is 15 to 30 students. So it helps us out if you want to request a trip, if you would say have 60 students, if you would request the 2 groups of 30 separately, instead of putting in one request for 60. If you do put in one request for 60, I'm probably just going to email you back and say, can we split this group up in some way? If you need us to see a large number of students at once, it's possible over Zoom. We just find that we get better engagement from students with a smaller group. So on the side here, I just have a sample schedule so you can kind of see what it might look like. So in this schedule, we have 45-minute sessions of Gassy World, 9 to 9:45, 10 to 10:45, and 11:30 to 12:15. I just pulled these off of one day from our calendar. One thing I want to point out is that we're doing the same lab all 3 times. We are trying to social distance in our lab too. So we usually only have one person in the lab at once. And so that person has to break down and reset between sessions. So we want to have that 15-minute break, and we want to have it be the same labs. We don't want to switch from our Gassy World to our Crooked Cell because that's a little bit too much for one person to be able to break down and reset within that 15-minute break. Are there any questions about field trips? You should be able to scroll through our field trip request form right there in the slides. I wouldn't start filling it out there because when I go to the next slide, it's going to disappear. But you can kind of see what questions we'll be asking you. One thing I would say about field trips is that we have lots of spaces open in February and later. We're completely booked up for January, and we tend to be completely booked up like 1 month out-ish. So if you want a date like sometime at the end of February, I'd request that now instead of waiting till mid-February. If you wait till then, we'll probably be booked.
Anne-Marie, what about teachers that might be unsure about if they're going back to hybrid learning? How might that affect a field trip?
Yeah, so I'll let you know that when you book a field trip for a certain date, we reserve the whole date for you. And so we try to be as flexible as we can be. Obviously, we do sometimes have other commitments, but as flexible as we possibly can be with the timing. So if you originally booked your trip to start at 10 and end at 11, but your schedule has changed because now you're teaching hybrid or something else happens, we can probably adjust. And if that field trip needs to start at 1 p.m. instead, we can probably make that work. We've done one hybrid field trip with a private school. Each student in the classroom did have their own device, so they were tuning in just like they were at home, but they were all in their classroom, which was really interesting, but it was still fun to do, and I think the students enjoyed it. So we can definitely talk about different ways to make it work, no matter what your hybrid or all virtual, or what the situation is.
Are you going to be closed during spring break? Are you off for Towson's spring break?
So Towson has a completely different spring break from like Baltimore County Public Schools, which has a completely different spring break from a lot of other public school systems. So we don't really take a spring break ourselves. So no, not, not really.
So we would be available then.
Right. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll keep going. If you think of something, feel free again to put it in the chat. So custom investigation videos, these are videos we create based on your request. They're custom made for you, so however you want us to do it, we'll try and follow as closely as we can to what you ask for. And these videos are ideally of science investigations that your students would normally be doing themselves in the classroom. So if you have a really great hands-on activity that your students love to do every year, but there's just no way for your students to do it at home because of the materials or whatever else, we will do it in our lab and we will record it for you so that you can send it out to your students. You can incorporate the video into your lesson however you want. I know some teachers have used them with Edpuzzle where they put questions in throughout the video or created their own Google-sized virtual lesson where the video is linked in, however you want to do it. We just give you the video and you take it from there. You can check out our YouTube channel and our website for videos, and the form is also on our website, so to make those requests. I will say that these work best when you tell us, when you give us as much information as possible. But if you just have kind of a vague idea, it's possible that someone else has also requested something similar. So, you know, it's always better to put in a request than say nothing. I saw a couple questions in the chat from field trips, so I'm going to go back a tiny bit. For the field trip link, Mary just put it in the chat. I'm also going to send out the slides that I'm using today, and that has all the links in it, so you can get that there too. And then for virtual field trips, we have a question about, do we only offer the virtual field trips listed under lab activity? All the virtual field trips we offer are listed on our website, and they should all be there under lab activity in that tab too. We've had a couple requests to sort of combine our oyster encounter virtual field trip with our ocean acidification virtual lesson, and that went really well. So we might end up putting that as another option. But I would mostly say, don't hesitate to ask for something. You know, the worst we can do is say no if we can't do it, but we might be able to do it. So it doesn't hurt to try. Those are all good questions. Thanks for sharing those. The next resource we have is our teacher demo kits. So if you use our Maryland Loaner Lab program, these will be pretty familiar to you. These are adapted from that program. So typically with our Maryland Loaner Lab program, we'd send out enough materials for your entire class for however many classes you have. For the demo kits, we're just sending you materials for one workstation. So for you to do a demonstration, but if you have 5 classes, we'll send you enough that you could do it 5 times if you needed to do that. We can send it to your home or your school, and you can use them for live demonstrations or record your own videos. So this is for someone who has their own way of doing our labs and wants to record themselves instead of using our video or our recording or our lesson. For these, you must have already attended our MDLL training in order to sign up for it. Science Explorers Club is for Maryland 3rd to 5th grade students. This is an elementary student activity. We meet virtually via Zoom every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Students can choose to attend this every week or just sporadically, but they need to be registered by a parent or guardian. This is because they're not attending with their class or through school. This is out of school time. So we just need to make sure that the parent or guardian is consenting to have the student attend and to receive the Zoom link from us. The picture there shows one of our first activities, making elephant toothpaste, which is really fun. So we try to do activities that are really visual, so it's exciting for students to be watching it over Zoom, or activities that use materials that students would have at home so they can follow along and do it themselves there too. So we've really enjoyed doing it, and we hope that you'll send this link out. You can share it with your neighborhood, with your church, wherever you want. We'd love to have students sign up. Are there any questions? I think I'm going pretty fast, so I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions about any of the last couple resources. All right. And again, if students sign up for this and then choose not to attend every week, that's totally fine. They can feel free to just attend whenever they choose to. Science shorts are videos on a variety of different subjects. We add new content pretty regularly. These are sort of standalone videos. So They're not videos that of an investigation specifically or necessarily something that someone has requested. They're videos that we've decided to do, things that we're interested in or want to share. They tend to be pretty short. You could incorporate them into lessons or just have your students watch the video by itself. So the one in the image here is about Mr. Trash Wheel, which is right outside our building, our lab in the Columbus Center. So we're pretty excited to share these. Hope you enjoy watching them. If you have suggestions, you can always email them to us. But again, these tend to be less like investigations and more like fun, tour of the Inner Harbor or that kind of science content. And then our virtual coffee house. This is a chance for teachers to connect with each other, connect with us in a more informal setting. We do it on the third Tuesday of every month. I think we're doing 4 to 4:45 p.m. now, right, Kara? And our discussion topics, a lot of times they're on distance learning, new tech tool tutorials, but also sometimes we just do things for fun. So right before winter break, we played categories with a group. It's just sort of a fun way to hang out with other teachers and unwind a little bit. This is like Science Explorers Club in that you can attend every month or just sporadically as suits your schedule. Is totally up to you. And if you have an idea for a future coffee house topic, something you want to discuss or want to learn about, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So that's all that we have to share with you. I want to hear back from all of you. What resources are you most excited about? And I think I have some multiple choice options there.
All right.
So I'll share responses. We don't have everyone putting them in yet, but as you respond, you can kind of see them move. So it looks like we have a lot of people excited about virtual field trips and virtual lessons, some also for custom investigation videos, demo kits, and one for the virtual coffee house, which is great. Does anyone want to share what they're particularly interested to use? You can unmute yourself. You can always type in the chat too, but kind of prefer if you unmute yourself.
Well, I'll go. I've used a lot of your resources. So I had the teacher demo kit when we were in the school building a couple of years ago. That was good. We've done a lot of the virtual field trips and the virtual lessons, but I'm really excited for the custom investigation videos because I can then because we're not in the classroom and I don't have the resources at home to demonstrate fermentation or photosynthesis, you can do those videos for me, and then I can upload them to an Edpuzzle assignment and use that as a formative assessment. So I think that's really good.
Great, thank you.
Gwen, one thing I wanted to say is when you requested your custom science investigation video, I emailed you back and said, I wanted to do these. Could you send me specifics? And it was great because you actually sent me like a picture of how you've done it before so that we knew what you were looking for. And then I think other teachers have sent me like a protocol or whatever, but that was really helpful in us not guessing what you wanted, but knowing exactly what was going to be useful. So thank you.
Yeah, and it was good because I remember for the fermentation one, it was kind of a I have 5 classes, so I was able to demonstrate what each class did, and like, haha, my class did better than your class, that type of thing. So that was good. Thank you.
Anyone else want to share what they're excited about using or looking forward to?
I wanted to pick 2, but I wasn't allowed to pick 2.
Oh, yeah.
So I like the virtual field trips, but I also think that the custom investigation videos are going to be exciting. I haven't done them, but I'm looking forward to that. Hi, Mary.
Now, speaking of the virtual field trip, we've had 2, so you've done 2 so far for my students. So one of the feedback from one of the students was that she would have preferred to be doing the actual experiments. And I told her if we were in the school building, that's what occurred, that the students would actually go down to the lab and do the experiments. So she wanted to be more hands-on instead of just being an observer. She actually wanted to, do the experiments. So hopefully we can make that happen. Probably not this year, but next year.
We hear that from students a fair amount during and after our field trips too, is that I wish I could be there. I wish I could be doing it myself. And we wish that too. We wish we could be sending the kids out to the schools or having the students come to our lab and do it themselves. But just trying to make things work as best we can for this year and hoping we can go back to a little bit more hands-on as soon as possible.
Right. So what kits, I didn't know that you could send the kits out to the school to have the students do them.
So that's our Maryland Loaner Lab program. So if your students are back in school, if you're doing a hybrid or fully back in school sort of setting, then we can send you a Loaner Lab kit like we normally would if you're trained for that program, which would be a full class set. We probably will be able to send out fewer this year than we would in other years. And that's because we would typically have students share materials with a group of 2 or 3. And right now we can't have students get that close to each other or be passing materials back and forth. So we would have to send you a set of materials for every single student that you have. So that just makes it a little bit more difficult for us, but we are willing to send out kits for teachers that have returned to school.
Okay.
And one more thing I want to say about field trips is if you guys do go back into hybrids, we were just talking about this recently. One thing we see happening would be maybe you're teaching some students at home at the same time as you have some students in the classroom. We're thinking of sending you like a mini kit that the kids could, let's say you were doing a virtual field trip that involved pipetting. Maybe we would send pipettes. So at the very least, kids could practice pipetting. They might not be doing the whole activity as normal. Or any other activity we have for our oyster activity, we would send out oyster shells that the kids that you actually do have could look at. So we're trying to figure out ways to make things work as your teaching situation evolves.
Yeah.
Okay, just, I'd have to discourage the kids from trying to eat the oysters.
So if we sent them to you, they would be oyster shells, which have been cleaned and bleached. So certainly not an edible piece. We do have students, when we do our oyster field trip, bring up the idea that they would like to eat them quite frequently. All right, my next question for you all is, what resources do you need that we don't yet offer? And this is a typing question. What can you think of that you really wish that you had in your classroom or would like to have that we're not offering that we could maybe think about starting to do?
Mm.
While you all are answering, I had a question in the chat about how do you join or get trained for the Maryland Loaner Lab program, which is a great question. Typically, we hold trainings in person a couple of times a year, and then at least one online per year. Obviously, this year we're not having any in person. I think we will hold an online training. You should watch out for our newsletter. We'll announce that with the dates when we do decide to hold it, and you can sign up there. And then you'll get your link and everything you need. So in the Pear Deck, okay, more K-5 virtual science lessons, we definitely have a lot of those in the pipeline. So we're looking to do a whole unit on the Chesapeake Bay of virtual lessons. So those are coming. Simulations. So I think this probably means lab simulations.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I'm sorry, were you saying the person who said it or anybody wants?
Anyone who's interested in it, the person who said it, if they want to elaborate, but anyone who's interested could talk about it.
Yeah, so that was me. I was saying lab simulation. So things, I think I found for some of my students, like Gwen was saying, how kids are like, I want to do something. I found that if they're actually getting to do it like virtually, then it's a little bit more hands-on than just watching someone do it all together.
Yeah, they're staying a little bit more engaged when they have to actually manipulate something, even if it's on a screen. Yeah.
In relationship to the simulations, for that teacher respondent, maybe your science department chair can get you guys Gizmo also. That's a great way to do simulations, the Gizmo account.
Yeah, so we had access to Gizmo, but you're with PGIC also. They said they weren't renewing that subscription. So I honestly would love to have a Labster subscription, I being the department chair, but they're not looking like they're budging on that either. So that's where we are.
Oh, okay.
So someone says, I wish you could accommodate larger groups in your lab. For virtual field trips, we can if you would like us to. We try to keep them a little bit smaller just to, we find that increases engagement. But if you wanted us to do a very large group, we could accommodate that. If this is talking about in person, then we are limited by space. And obviously we can't have any groups in person this year.
Yeah, that was me. I know in the past when you had in-person field trips, you're kind of limited to 25 students in the lab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our limit is 32 for in-person. And when we're in person, we only do one trip per day. So one thing that is kind of nice in a way about doing them virtually, even though the students aren't getting quite as much of a hands-on experience, is that we can do 3 or 4 or 5 trips in a day if we need to. So we can see a lot more students. So that is one thing we like about it, although I do wish students were having the experience of doing it themselves.
Do you think you'll continue the virtual field trips when we go back to the school building?
That's a really good question. And I don't know yet what we'll end up doing when we're all, back in school. We certainly don't want to sacrifice the hands-on portion of our program in order to be all virtual all the time. So we're going to have to try and figure out what we can maintain and what we'll have to give up when we're going back to being in person. We have a suggestion for resources in Spanish from someone who teaches ESA. I think that's a great idea. We can definitely look into it. I don't know how quickly we'd be able to develop those. This is another simulation request. Demo kits for elementary teachers. So the hybrid field trip kit that we sent out with the oysters, with our oyster encounter lab, that was for an elementary class. So we sent out the oyster shells and rulers and worksheets. So they were drawing the shells, making observations, and then measuring them to determine the age of the oyster. So we definitely are working on finding ways to do hybrid kits for elementary. We can look into doing some demos too.
And for elementary, when we go back to normal times, we're trying to get more loaner lab kits available for elementary teachers. Right now, our loaner lab program is only for secondary, but that's been a push, and then COVID hit, so we put it aside for this year. But going forward, I want elementary teachers to be able to borrow a kit that has hands-on manipulative materials for their students. So keep an eye out for that in the future.
Yeah. This person just says they want to see more of these type of lessons. Just keep an eye on our newsletter. I think it goes out every week now, and we're always, creating new things, and we'll let you know about those in the newsletter. We do have crown jewels as a field trip, so that's good news for whoever put in this. Bacterial transformation takes a long time, but I think we're planning to do that as a video, maybe like a custom investigation video for that. It just takes a little bit too long for us to be able to do it in the 1 hour to like 80-minute time period for a field trip.
Yeah, but definitely for all the teachers that do have transformation in their futures, we will be having sort of a demo, a custom video for that you can put into a lesson that you have. So keep an eye out for that. That'll come within a month, I think.
Great. I see a hand up. I just want to make sure we're making time for questions that people
Hi.
have.
Hi, quick question. As far as regards to like scheduling, what is like the average, or I guess maybe what do you think the average time is from like requesting either like a virtual demo or a virtual lesson or sorry, like a lesson demonstration video to like, actually receiving it or starting the session? Like, would it take like a week, or, is it possible the next day?
That's a really good question. So the next day is very unlikely if you're requesting a custom investigation video. We might be able to do it within a couple of weeks. The earlier you can request, the better. Depending on what the investigation is, in some cases, we might already have the materials in the lab and it would just be a matter of filming it. In other cases, we might need to order materials and that can take a little bit longer. So the earlier you can request it, the better. Gwen was just talking about how she put in some custom investigation video requests. I think she put them in back in December before the break for lessons that she wanted to teach in February. So now we're in January, we're working on those and we're going to get them to her by the time that she needs them. So that's sort of the ideal schedule for us, is to be thinking now maybe about something you need in February or later.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Great. If you want to come on a field trip, I would say it's probably at least like a 2-week. Usually we're booked up solid for the next 2 weeks at least, sometimes up to a month. So I would try and get those requests in at least a month ahead of time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I see in the chat that someone asked, are resources and sessions available at cost or free for educators? All of our resources are completely free. So we're not charging anything for field trips, to make videos. Everything is free.
And I see someone mentioned science investigations using supplies easily found at home. So Kara's lesson, it's a virtual lesson up on our website that someone mentioned earlier, How Do Scientists Know Things, is all about students finding something at home to observe and make a hypothesis about. And then our elementary level Science Explorers Club activities, we're working really hard to make those activities that students could do at home. So I know a couple of the ones students have done, they've done some investigations with testing out paper airplanes. They did one where you make lava lamps from supplies you might have at home. So a lot of different fun things. And we're working, I think Earl is working on getting those sort of written up so that they would be on our website eventually at some point. I don't know if Kara, you have anything to add about that.
Nothing to add right now, but yeah, like Emery said, we do have like this series of lessons that we actually already have like 1-pagers and stuff for. So if you're interested in them, you can reach out to me directly and I can send you links to them. Otherwise, they will be going up on our website soon.
Another thing we've recommended in the past is that even if you as a teacher don't want to attend Science Explorers Club, if you sign yourself up for it, you'll get emails about it, including after every club meeting. We send out an email with a how-to on the investigation or activity that they do. And so you would just be receiving those little how-to sheets that we're sending out to the parents. If you have a use for them or would find them interesting, feel free to sign up to get them.
Lori, can you clarify your question? You asked, would it be what it would be a good idea or appropriate to send you the actual lab? Are you saying, would it be appropriate to send us the actual lab if you want us to make a custom video?
Correct.
Yes, please. The more details you can give us, like even if the students in class do a open-ended investigation, if you could give me a step-by-step instructions of how that investigation should be done, what you expect the results to look like, that type of thing is really useful. And we also usually set up a phone call. The other thing that's useful for us to have would be student worksheets that are associated with that lab.
That's what I was thinking, like an
yes.
attached document. Okay, very good.
And you can't attach it to the application, but you can email those to us
Separately, okay.
That'd be perfect. The more info we have, the better.
Great. So my last question is about what you think. So someone asked this earlier, which is kind of nice. We're sort of thinking in the same direction. But are there any resources that you think you'll keep using when you return to the classroom? So we've all learned so much about these different technologies and these different ways of teaching. And I think some of them we might want to leave behind when we go back to the classroom, but some of them we might want to take with us. And I'm wondering, what do you think you'll keep using?
So I have a question. Are there any limitations on the custom science investigation videos? And what I mean by that is that our students don't dissect frogs or cats, but that's the first thing that they want to do. They want to dissect something. Is that something you'd be able to do?
If you send us a request, we'll look at it and think about whether or not we would be able to do it. I'm looking at Kara and Mary right now, and I don't know if any of us are enthusiastic about dissecting a frog or a cat.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays you can't use a scalpel. You know, there are a lot of restrictions. Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, send your ideas to us for sure. And the other thing we might do is if we can't do it, we might be able to pull up some resources that already exist as well, right? Yeah, that can kind of help.
That's a good idea. Like if we're doing the body system, we can, say here's a video of a dissected cat, and these are the internal organs. That's a great idea.
Because I'm pretty sure for most of our videos, they exist on YouTube already. But the thing about our custom videos that we hope is that they're just a little bit more exactly what you want, right? Like we don't give the answers away either. We don't say, and this is supposed to turn blue and now it's turning blue. We like ask the students to observe and decide what's happening. So I think that's what makes our videos a little bit different. But if we can't do it, we will help you source out some videos that will do that.
Somebody said cow eye or hard to see.
Yeah.
I never heard of cow eye before. You actually do a cross section of that?
Yeah. Who said cow eye?
I think that was Lori. I remember we did a sheep's eye when I was in middle school.
Mm.
Yeah. They're good
From
for
Kara's face, I'm going to assign her all the dissection requests.
So in the answers to the last question, looks like people are interested in continuing with loaner labs and lessons, keeping students engaged in person and supplementing homework or asynchronous assignments. If your school doesn't have resources to complete the hands-on lab, again, when we go back, you could request our loaner lab, but you could also use some of our videos or virtual labs. Good sub-plans or makeup work. So I think sometimes during the school year, if students are absent during a lab, they just kind of miss that lab. But if you had a video or a virtual version to share with them, maybe they would get to make it up a little bit better. Virtual lessons and videos, a lot of videos people think they'll still be interested in. So that really helps us because we do want to sort of keep an eye on the future and know what people will still be using next year and beyond. So that's the end of what I have. Like I mentioned earlier, we've really improved our social media presence. Yvonne is doing a lot for us there. So we encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is TU STEM Center. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact any of us using the email addresses here. And then I think the link is to our YouTube page. So feel free to browse that. when we make any teacher a custom investigation video, it goes up on our YouTube page and on our website, because we found that if one person is requesting something, there are probably a lot of people who are looking for something similar. So you can access our previous ones there. And if there are any more questions, feel free to stick around and let us know.